we're going to talk about how to get involved in the other community and march with the open source community, making that easier, and sort of our perspective from having done it, and how you can get started quickly. So let's start with the stretching exercise. Who here uses open source software? Put your hands in the air. Both hands. Who here has, so it's open, who here has gone and read the source of a package? How about of R itself, to figure out how something worked, all right? Who has a GitHub account? Almost everyone. Who's filed a bug report on GitHub? That's half or more. Who's forked a repo of somebody else's to hack on your own? Have you submitted a patch upstream from that? Cool. Got some submitters here. Who's made a package and fielded other people's bug reports and pull requests and tried to manage the onslaught? All right. So we can all do that. Just a moment about us. We're social scientists by training. We're political scientists. We worked in the survey research industry. And now we work making data products to make our colleagues doing our former jobs' lives easier. We aren't the biggest open source contributors. We want to do more, not even in this room. The hardest step is going from just doing something yourself and keeping it local to contributing, filing that bug report. And we get bug reports and feature requests on our both closed and open source products every day.
So we can evaluate what's a useful bug report and what is not.
Yeah. So why would you not contribute to open source? There are plenty of very good reasons. You figure out the answer, you contribute maybe an answer on Stack Overflow, which is a different kind of totally worthwhile contribution, but it's not quite the same as fixing the bug in production. I love this image, the copy answer directly into my code. Thanks. Thanks, Stack Overflow.
Thanks, Apple, for the new.
The open source community can be a little unfriendly or seem like you don't know quite how they talk to each other, the norms. Mean girls, you can't sit with us. There's the fear that you're submitting something in public that's maybe half-baked. It might not be the right fix. I think it's worth submitting anyway, so you can learn from that. Sometimes maintainers won't be shy about pointing out that you kind of look stupid and you want to fade into the bushes. In the R world.
Yeah, so I don't know, how many of you have looked at the Fortunes library? It's funny when people reference it, but it's this great library, I guess, of quotations that are culled from the mailing lists. And some people are particularly notorious. Who's on the R mailing list? Any of the help or dev? If you're not, you should get on them. They're really good to follow. But certain contributors and certain responders on the list are a bit more notorious for perhaps not suffering fools. And in fact, if you search Brian Ripley, who does amazing things for the community, he's got 41 hits in there, and so I just went through.
It's just a few.
Yeah, I just went through and found a few of them, and this one I think encapsulates just
why not to contribute to open source.
Yeah, because the silly users, that's you guys, that's us, and it's true. It is really. It's not wrong. It's just not the most helpful thing to say to somebody. And this one, I think, the fix requires the user.
The user, not even a human.
To read the documentation. And the phenomenon is so common that it even has a name. And so this one, the fear of getting Ripleyed on the mailing list makes me think before submitting. Who here has been Ripleyed? Good. It's a kind of rite of passage, I think. But our goal here is to help you, as our theme song said, to not fear the Ripley. So we.
The only extant picture of Professor Ripley on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I guess now there's two. So here's how we're going to bring some more cowbell in here. How we're going to cure this fever.
Think like a package maintainer, because we field bug reports and we think like, how can we help users make better bug reports? Identify places where you can start and start small. how to make a bug report that won't make maintainers make snarky remarks at you, how to write a good pull request that a maintainer wants to accept, and a few acronyms and abbreviations along the way that we're sort of surprised when people aren't familiar with them, and I think they're worth spreading. So should you contribute? If you've ever thought about it, if you've ever asked yourself, then the answer is yes. Why do it?
Well, I mean, there's two reasons. The first one is altruism. This is an open source community. That's why we say community, and we all benefit when the code works and is helpful and does things we want. And so if you found something that's not right or a way to improve something that other people might benefit for, share it. Instead of just working around it and leaving a comment in your code about how this package doesn't work in this case, fix it. Fix it for everybody. But the other reason is self-interest. It's a great way to improve your resume. When we're hiring, first place I go, probably even before getting to the end of the resume, is look at your GitHub account and see what you have there.
Definitely never go to LinkedIn. I mean, well, I won't say never, but look at GitHub before LinkedIn.
It's not the first place I go, yeah. And so it shows that you're engaged in the community, which is important, and more importantly, that you have skills that we're hiring. The things that we want you to do, if you can participate in open source, that's good evidence. And so the skills
I know that's true for tons of other people hiring in this room.
Yeah. So
those skills.
So if you can get a pull request merged in, you've probably written code that has tests that cover the stuff you did. So that's good. You write code that passes tests, and you write tests, and you can participate in code reviews. When somebody asks for changes and you respond, yeah.
Sure, I can change that. That makes sense.
Yeah, and we're a fully remote development team, and so we use pull requests and we use GitHub a lot to do this. So this is this is better than an interview in many respects. And a lot of people on our team actually have met through working together on open source projects. A lot of them Python web frameworks, and they've all been contributors and maintainers and meet each other doing sprints at PyCon and things like that. So it's a great way to meet people as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we're hiring here.
Of course.
And I throw up the blinking text also just because we're coming up against lunch and just want to grab your attention. Used to be a lot easier to do the blink tag, by the way, but you have to work at it nowadays. So.
Took some JavaScript CSS help there.
Yeah.
So how can you get started? Obviously, most of us already signed up for GitHub. If you haven't, Jared made the RNYC thing. That's probably where I'd start today, is fork that and start contributing there. Sign up for the mailing lists, like Neal mentioned.
I had to look a little too hard to find that link for where the mailing lists are. But there it is, and there are several. It's not just the help list. There's a number of them. And
start reading the code. Read the tests and read the issues and the existing pull requests to see, well, is this already being addressed? Where is this going? Is this an opportunity for me?
If you want to be a writer, you read a lot. If you want to write music, you listen to a lot of music, and it's true of writing code.
Yep.
RTFS. Who here knows RTFS? Who here has been told to RTFS? Yeah.
By a package maintainer.
It's open source, so great. It's open. You can read it. It's not magic. I've had a lot of people that have asked me how some bit of code works, and they think they don't understand that, like, hey, this is, if you want to see what's doing, it's not magic. It's not sorcery.
20-line function. It goes somewhere in those 20 lines.
This loads this data and it does this thing, and then so it helps you to understand what's going on, and also you have to know what's out there in order to know where it is what's missing.
So a bit of advice is start small, help your friends. How many package authors do we have in the room? Who has a package on GitHub that I'm sure that you have features in mind. Package authors, you could make a list of features that you'd like somebody to add. Doesn't hurt to add a issue request list. And for anyone who does have a package out there, bug reports means you have users, and that's exciting. So they do it because they care about the project, and you're contributing because you want to show that you care too. You use the thing, and
And your contribution
better.
should reflect that you care about the community as well.
It's worth recognizing they probably have lots of other things going on besides their pet package. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks for them to respond. One of my favorite ways to get started is contributing to docs. Every time you have to read something 3 or 4 times before you finally get it, somebody else is probably confused too. The documentation may not be the first thing in the original author's mind, and they're like, oh yeah,
Well, they know how it works.
I'll just write down the names of the parameters and does something, or does name a parameter. They know it's not really helpful. They didn't have time to do it. If you figure out a better way of phrasing it, writing good documentation so that you can happily hit question mark function name in R and figure out what to do. Another thing that's really easy to fix is
Yeah.
is unhelpful error messages. That it's great as a package author to trap errors and say, hey, bubble this up and tell them that there was an error. Stop, right?
So here's an example that I ran into, because I was doing something dumb, as it turned out, and I didn't know it. And then I have a package that depends on HTTR, which uses curl. And some APIs changed here and there. And suddenly, my stuff was breaking, and I was getting this message that said, unknown options. And which options are unknown? How do I didn't know how to fix the problem in my code. So I forked it, and I tweaked it so it would print out what the names of the options were that I was specifying that were wrong. So I submitted upstream, wrote a test, and
that documented really clearly, this is what we're trying to do. We want to say unknown option, invalid option. Hey, wait, there's 2 of them here. Unknown options, be nice and pluralize, have that. And a valid option, it succeeds, right? Like, clearly says in the test, and Jerome is responsive, and that's in
It was great. And I think a couple reasons why it was successful was, first, it was minimally invasive. I didn't change any. There's no additions to APIs, no change in the function signatures, no different really behavior other than what the error message was.
Not like an argument of trap options true, or like it just does the right thing.
So like the vision of the package is unaffected. And every condition that you could get into had a test. So I wasn't introducing more pain for somebody down the road.
Yeah. File a bug report. One of the great things about GitHub is the issues section. And when you're doing that, you want to empathize with the maintainer of the package, who feels like this. Ooh, I have a user. I have another user. Oh. And he wants to help all of those users.
Yeah.
But they also feel like this. Well, it's probably the user's fault. Do we know the acronym PEBCAC? Who knows what PEBCAC is? This is problem exists between chair and keyboard, or sometimes keyboard and chair. And this is the default mindset is, well, I already did everything. This has to be user error. And if it were a real problem, someone I know would have told me, or I would have already caught it. I'm smart. My friends are smart. Mariah saying I don't know her. So.
Well, I don't know her. It's like, I also don't know you.
Yeah.
There are all these people that use my package, and they're happy with it. And then you're somebody I don't know, and it doesn't work for you.
Works on my machine.
So before you go in and make that bug report, definitely go make sure see if somebody else has already reported it.
I like your example.
Yeah, well, this is a particularly frustrating issue for me, but you can see a lot of people have also had this issue and have bumped it up. Just add you don't have to write a new report. Dealing with duplicate reports is not fun either. But anyway, check, see if it exists. And then when you get to doing it, you got to be able to reproduce the issue and try to find the minimal way to do that. And this is what you're fighting
Because a
against.
bug report sometimes is the glass doesn't work.
Yeah. So we have to distinguish, is this a real bug or is this user error? And you have to make sure, you want to tell, particularly if you're not known to the maintainer, that you're not that user. You're not the one who's licking the side of the glass and saying, oh, I'm not getting any water.
And this also helps you understand what's going on. I liken this to the journal of null results, right? The journal of passing tests these are all the ways in which it does work that I thought might be my bug. Sometimes those end up being part of the patch, sometimes not. But they help you sort of learn and refine to get the minimal reproducible example. The very best thing is, of course, a failing test is better than a bug report. And better than that is a test with a fix. You get a medal for that. So as a good dog. Minimally invasive test and fix, which follows project conventions, even ones that you think are ugly. I particularly dislike underscores. I know controversial to the Hadleyverse.
I think indentation is 4 spaces, but I know other people don't.
Some people think it fits better in 2.
Just fine.
Yeah, but like if that's what the project has, if you can update and improve the docs while you're at it, leave things better than you found them. If you see another stray typo, fix it. Even typos in comments I've fixed.
Yeah. So this is another example from the curl package. It's not to pick on this. It just happened to.
This is a great package that we want to contribute to, and I think you've made a couple useful contributions.
Yeah. So this one was a weird one where I was noticing that in our product that we were getting a lot slower requests, and it was kind of a change that it kind of happened where things were taking up to a second longer than they used to, and our API, to do some work, you might make a number of API requests in a single action, and so it just added up. And just doing some looking around, it looked like that the client, our library, was not respecting this keep alive header. So if your server returns a keep alive header, you should keep the TCP connection open, and you don't have to renegotiate SSL. You don't have to do a lot of these things to set up that connection.
Which can take seconds. This was amounting to, our product involves lots of HTTP traffic, and minutes of users' day were being eaten by renegotiating SSL.
Yeah, and so, but this was, in order to report this, or even just for me to feel confident that it was a bug, there was a broader range of places that there could be an error. It's not just between the chair and the keyboard, because there's a lot of other variables involved. So first of all, is it documented that it's supposed to work this way? Turns out it was. But it's also possible that it maybe didn't support it. Is my server returning the right header? That's another variable. We're dealing with a remote connection. I have another package that's on top of another package that's on top of the thing that's actually managing this. So am I setting some setting wrong before it gets to there? Is it my problem? Is it my bug? And then, with a library like curl, you're linking to an external library on your system. So you've got my system things. Is my libcurl wrong? Is my C compiler not? So there's a lot of things that I wanted to rule out in order to say, is this actually a problem that is not my problem? And so the first problem is, how do I measure that this is happening? And so in an ideal world, the first request is going to take a little bit longer, and then you do a follow-up request, and it's going to be much faster because it's not going to have that connection time. So the first one would look like this. You see this time where these are printouts from the command line curl of it took 433 milliseconds just to set up the connection to the server. But then the next time I did it with doing the keep alive behavior, it was 0, and that's what you should see. And the second one is that in the curl, if you turn on the verbosity of curl logging, which I do not recommend that you do as a normal practice because it's quite verbose, it has this nice, very happy message of using existing connection.
It gets excited about it.
As it should. I mean, it's a big savings. And so I could see that, and if I turned on logging, I could see that it was not doing this in R, but I wanted to find a way to capture that in order to make it a reproducible example that didn't involve me looking at the screen. But just even as I'm debugging, I wanted to rule out all these other variables that said it's not me, it's not my system, it's not my server. So the first thing I did is switch over to testing against HTTP bin. Great service. It'll test all kinds of things about your HTTP request and give you information back. If you're trying to ping something, I mean, even just using Google works too. I
Try it
moved my
directly.
package out of the way and just used straight curl. Is it curl or is it mine? Ran the command line to compare there. And then this was a particularly interesting one because I'm linking to an external library. There's more than one package that do this. And so I dug up the old rcurl library and tried that. And then I wrote a failing test. And if you can't reproduce the issue, then they can't reproduce the issue. And if they can't reproduce the issue, nothing's going to happen. But the failing test is also great because with GitHub and Travis and all these things, you can push it, and then suddenly you're not running on your computer anymore. It's not, well, it fails on my machine. It's like it fails on all of these different instance types on Travis, which is great. So here's the test. Record the logging, capture the output, and then I should not see this message on the first request, but I should see it on the second request.
And it failed with a sad face.
Yes. And then there's the second one where I did the same thing in rcurl. So that was as far as I could take it. So I didn't have the fix, but.
So we've got a link in here, and this was fixed by the maintainer. Like he was able to use this test to dig down and fix where he was calling the thing wrong. So wrapping up, more Cowbell. The maintainer wants your contributions. We've tried to show you some ways that we think we've written some good contributions before and what we would look for.
We have others that weren't accepted and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's,
We've definitely had requests rejected or just disagreed with. Because once they accept your changes, they own them, right? That's why you sort of look like the project. It's the project's now, not yours. Start small, pick a small project, do docs. Don't, decide that you're going to change everything to camel case. Help them want to accept your request because they do. Users, yay, party.
Yeah, just deliver to them. And don't fear the Ripley. Just do it.
Thank you.